Welcome to this deep dive, into the psychology of money
Mm.
by Morgan Housel.
Okay.
We're going to be kind of looking at, how our experiences and biases
Right.
shape our decisions about money
Yeah,
more than we think.
absolutely.
And the book has all these great stories, like Ronald Reed, the janitor, who ended up
Mhm.
with like $8 million,
Yeah.
and Jesse Livermore, who was,
Yeah.
kind of a Wall Street legend, but made and lost a fortune several times.
Right, several times, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how Housel uses these real-life examples to really,
Yeah.
demonstrate that understanding the psychology of money is really as important.
Yeah.
It, if not more than, grasping those traditional financial concepts.
Yeah, like the
The
mechanics.
mechanics, exactly.
Right. Um, and he dives right into it in the first chapter. No one's crazy.
Yeah.
He tells this anecdote about a tech executive who would
I'll go.
throw gold coins in the ocean as a party trick,
Oh, wow.
but then totally freaked out when he had to pay like a small amount for a broken lamp.
Right.
And it's just like,
And that's such a great example of how, the value we assign to money
yes,
is so personal, right?
right.
And it often based on,
Yeah,
our upbringing, our experiences.
right,
What seems rational to one person might seem completely absurd to another.
right.
And,
And this is
this is where it gets
yeah,
interesting because it highlights the importance of recognizing that our own financial decisions are often driven by these deeply ingrained beliefs and emotional responses
yeah,
that, might not always align with that traditional financial advice. It's
yeah,
not always about,
right.
just looking at the numbers.
Right.
There's a lot more.
There's a lot more going on. So
Yeah.
instead of judging other people's choices,
Yeah.
the chapter encourages us to think about our own relationship with money.
Exactly.
Did your family talk about money
Yeah.
growing up?
Right. Were they savers or spenders?
Yeah, were they savers, were they spenders?
What were their habits?
Yeah. Did you experience financial hardship or
Yeah.
abundance?
Right. Because all of those experiences can
Mhm.
shape how we view things
Totally.
years later.
Yeah.
For example, economists Ulrich Malmendier and Stefan Nagel,
Okay.
they did some research and they found that investors who live through periods of high inflation,
Oh.
they tend to be more cautious
Oh, interesting.
with their investments later in life.
Yeah.
Because they associate inflation with instability and loss.
Right.
So they
Right.
might favor safer investments, even if those
Yeah.
investments might not yield the highest returns.
So how does this help the average person?
Well, I think the key here is
Yeah.
understanding how your personal history might be influencing your choices, right?
Right.
So you can ask yourself, am I being overly cautious because of some past experience? Or am I taking unnecessary risks because I haven't fully grasped the consequences?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know?
I mean,
It's about awareness.
yeah.
And this awareness is especially important when it comes to
Yeah.
luck and risk,
Okay.
which Housel explores in the next chapter.
Okay.
He argues that, success, particularly in finance, is often attributed to skill and hard work,
Right.
when in reality, luck and random events
Yeah.
play a much larger role than we might want to admit,
Do we give credit for?
than we give credit for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he uses the example of Bill Gates, right?
Okay.
He talks about how, attending one of the few schools with a computer in the early 1960s
Yeah.
gave Gates this incredible advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Imagine if he hadn't had access to that computer.
Totally different.
Totally different, right? Would he still be
Right.
the Bill Gates we know today?
Yeah, what if his programming partner hadn't died young?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So many what ifs. And it's fascinating because we tend to praise these successful people
Mm-hmm.
for their talent and dedication.
Right.
But often we overlook the role of chance.
The role of luck? You
Yeah,
can't-
and these fortunate circumstances that contributed to their achievements.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way.
And it's not to diminish their accomplishments,
Right.
but it's more to acknowledge that luck plays a bigger role
Yeah.
than we might think.
Yeah.
And he drives this point home with these contrasting stories of Cornelius Vanderbilt,
Okay.
who was this ruthless businessman who openly defied laws,
Okay.
and Benjamin Graham, who was a proponent of diversification,
Go ahead.
but then made a fortune by breaking his own rules.
Really?
With a concentrated Geico investment.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so both achieved this incredible success,
Uh-huh.
but their stories highlight how difficult it is to separate bold moves from reckless ones.
Yeah.
especially when luck is involved.
Especially when luck is involved, yeah.
Right? It raises the question, like, are we praising the right people for the right reasons?
Interesting.
And are we giving enough weight to the role of chance in their success?
That's a good point.
So understanding this can help you make more informed decisions about who you admire, who you emulate, right?
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in someone else's success story.
Oh, yeah.
But recognizing the role of luck can lead to like more realistic expectations and a healthier perspective on your own journey.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this leads us to the chapter Never Enough, where Housel tackles this very human tendency to always want more.
Oh, yeah.
Even when we've already achieved a level of financial security that most people would envy. Right? He uses the example of Rajat Gupta, this highly successful businessman who risked everything for insider trading profits. Right. And it's a cautionary tale about how this relentless pursuit of even when already wealthy can lead to these destructive choices. Right? It's a reminder that even the most successful individuals can fall prey to greed and ambition. And it highlights the importance of defining enough for yourself and recognizing the dangers of constantly moving the goalposts.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. And he also emphasizes the dangers of social comparison.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we often measure our own success against others, which leads to, you know, these feelings of inadequacy.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where defining enough for yourself becomes crucial.
Right.
It's not about settling for less.
Right.
It's about recognizing that contentment and a clear sense of what truly matters to you are crucial for long-term financial well-being.
I like that.
So you know it's worth asking yourself, what does enough look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How can you cultivate that contentment and avoid falling into the trap of comparing your wealth to others?
Totally.
Maybe it's about setting clear financial goals that align with your values. Or maybe it's about focusing on experiences in relationships rather than material possessions. You know, whatever it may be, defining enough can help you break free from that constant pressure to accumulate more and instead focus on what truly matters.
Yeah, that's great.
And achieving that financial security often involves understanding like the power of compounding, which Housel dedicates a whole chapter to. And he argues that it's not just about understanding interest tables, but about having that patience and discipline to let that growth unfold over time. He uses Warren Buffett as a prime example. The majority of his wealth was accumulated after his 50th birthday.
Wow.
Right. Which shows that compounding...
It's a long game.
It's a long game.
Right.
He compares Buffett to Jim Simons. Who's this hedge fund manager who consistently achieved higher annual returns than Buffett? But because Simons started investing later in life, he ended up with a much smaller net worth, illustrating that the length of time compounding is allowed to work is just as crucial as the rate of return. So it challenges that common misconception that you need to be like a financial genius or make these risky bets to become wealthy. Patience and consistency coupled with that magic of compounding can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And then this brings us to like this crucial distinction. The difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he explores this by contrasting the stories of Jesse Livermore, who made a fortune during the 1920s boom, and Abraham Jermansky, who also thrived during that period. The 1929 crash wiped out Jermansky, but Livermore ended up even richer.
However, Livermore eventually lost everything through risky bets.
Wow.
Jermansky, had he survived the crash, might have rebuilt his fortune. So their contrasting fates emphasize the importance of not just acquiring wealth, but maintaining it. And Housel argues that staying wealthy requires like a different set of skills. Frugality. A healthy dose of paranoia. About potential risks. And the discipline to plan for unexpected events. So while getting rich might be a sprint, staying wealthy is a marathon.
That's good.
Right. And part of that marathon involves understanding this concept of tails you win. Housel argues that like a small percentage of outlier events often drive the majority of outcomes in both investing and life.
Okay.
He uses the example of art dealer Heinz Berggruen, whose success was largely determined by a handful of high-value acquisitions.
Wow. Right. And so this concept is a reminder that we need to be comfortable with failures and setbacks because they are often part of the process leading to those tail events that can determine our success.
Yeah, so it's not about every single decision being right.
It's not about being right all the time. It's about positioning yourself to capitalize
on those big wins.
On those big wins, exactly.
Right.
So how does this apply to your life?
Yeah.
Well, it encourages us to reframe failure as a necessary part of the journey.
Okay.
And focus on positioning ourselves to capitalize on those outlier opportunities when they arise.
Right.
It's about playing the long game.
Right.
Accepting that not every investment or decision will be a home run. And understanding that the key to long-term success often lies in those rare but significant tail events.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. So building on that idea of these unexpected outcomes, Housel reminds us in You'll Change that, we're constantly evolving.
Right.
Our goals, our priorities, even our values can shift over time.
Yeah, it's easy to think we've reached the final version of ourselves.
Right. We think we're done.
But we're not.
We're not.
Right.
And Housel calls this the end of history illusion.
Okay.
We project our current desires and preferences onto our future selves.
Yeah.
Often failing to account for how much will actually change.
Right. Like how many of your goals from 5 years ago are still relevant?
Right. Are you the same person
you
were 5 years ago?
Not at all.
Probably not, right?
Yeah.
And we tend to underestimate how much will change,
right,
which can lead to these financial plans that just no longer serve us.
Don't make sense anymore.
Don't make sense anymore, yeah.
Yeah.
So Housel suggests planning for multiple chapters in our financial lives. What works for you in your 20s might not be suitable in your 40s or 60s.
Right.
Your risk tolerance, your goals,
right,
even your definition of success
totally
are likely to change.
Yeah.
So it's about acknowledging that flexibility and adaptability are crucial for long-term well-being.
Yeah.
It might be helpful to ask yourself, how have your own aspirations changed over the years?
Right.
And how can you incorporate that adaptability into your planning?
Like having a roadmap with detours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Life rarely follows a straight path.
Nope.
So regularly reassessing your goals, making adjustments can help you stay on track.
Right.
Even as your circumstances and priorities evolve.
Yeah. And this adaptability is especially important.
Yes.
When you consider that, as Housel puts it, nothing's free.
Right.
Every investment.
Yeah.
Every financial decision.
Everything comes with a price tag.
Comes with a price.
Yeah.
And he uses this great analogy with Disneyland.
Okay.
You pay a price up front to get into the park.
Right, to access the experience.
Right? And in investing, that price is often volatility risk.
The potential for loss. Right.
And a lot of people see market volatility as a punishment.
Right, like a sign that something's wrong.
Yeah, or
And it leads to emotional reactions and potentially bad decisions.
Right.
Instead, Housel suggests viewing volatility as the fee we pay.
Or the potential upside.
For the potential for higher returns.
Right.
It's the cost of admission.
Yeah.
Right.
To the game.
To the game, exactly. Yeah. And by accepting this fee as a natural part of the process, we can approach investing with a more balanced and long-term perspective. So before diving into any investment, it's crucial to consider the price you're willing to pay.
Right.
Are you comfortable with the level of volatility and risk?
Yeah.
What are the trade-offs involved?
Right. What are you giving up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And understanding these costs up front can help you make more informed decisions and avoid just chasing returns without fully grasping the risks.
Yeah.
Housel also dives into the cost of consumerism.
Okay.
He explores how post-World War II, economic policies and cultural shifts contributed to the rise of consumerism and the normalization of household debt.
Right.
It's fascinating how factors like low interest rates, pent-up demand for goods after the war, and this growing cultural expectation of a middle-class lifestyle really fueled a surge
in spending.
And debt, and buying things on credit became normal. And this historical context is important because it continues to shape our behaviors today. We're often operating on autopilot, influenced by these societal norms and expectations that were established like decades ago. So it's worth asking yourself, are your spending habits truly aligned
with your values?
And your financial goals?
Are you just following a script?
Or are you just following a script?
That was written years ago.
That was written decades ago.
Yeah.
Right, and this leads us to like a crucial message in Housel's book. Personal finance is deeply personal. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. In You and Me, he stresses this importance of aligning your financial decisions with your own values.
Your own values?
Your goals. Your risk tolerance. He shares his own personal financial philosophy, emphasizing like independence and peace of mind over chasing the highest returns or accumulating the most wealth.
So it's not about just having the most.
It's not about the biggest number. It's about what matters to you. Right? It's a good reminder that what might be considered rational for one person could be completely misaligned with another person's goals and aspirations. Remember that anecdote about Harry Markowitz? The Nobel laureate? Who admitted to using a simple 50-50 investment strategy
even though
for his own retirement?
He had all this complex research?
Despite his complex research, right? And it highlights the importance of finding an approach that works for you. Even if it deviates from like conventional wisdom. The key is to define your own financial philosophy and resist the pressure to conform to like external expectations or generic advice.
Like you don't have to follow what everybody else is doing.
Exactly. What matters most is finding a strategy that helps you sleep well at night and aligns with your values and long-term goals.
That's good.
Now let's talk about like a really pervasive force in our financial lives. Pessimism. It's everywhere, especially when it comes to money matters. Why are we so drawn to negativity?
Why are we?
Housel tackles this in The Seduction of Pessimism. And he points out how negative news and predictions often capture our attention.
More than a positive.
More effectively than positive ones. It goes back to like our evolutionary wiring.
Like we focus on the threats.
Well, you focus on the threats, exactly. And Daniel Kahneman's work on loss aversion explains how the pain of losing something is far greater
than the pleasure of gaining.
Something of equal value.
Right.
So we're naturally wired
to avoid the loss.
To be more sensitive to potential threats. And money is often at the heart of those perceived threats. And the fact that money is so ubiquitous.
It's everywhere.
It touches every aspect of our lives. Just amplifies our anxiety.
When something bad happens in the economy, it feels personal.
It feels personal because it affects us all.
In some way.
Housel uses the example of this Russian professor who, during the 2008 financial crisis, predicted like the imminent collapse of the U.S. economy. And this prediction, despite its lack of grounding, made it to the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Right? And it just shows how captivating and contagious pessimism can be, especially during times of uncertainty. But Housel reminds us that pessimism often fails to account for human ingenuity, adaptability, unforeseen positive developments.
Like we figure things out.
Take the 1970s oil crisis, for instance. Many experts predicted like global economic collapse. Yet conservation efforts and new technologies ultimately led to like increased energy efficiency, proving those predictions wrong. Right?
So even though things look bad, we can adapt.
We adapt. We innovate. So it's a reminder to critically evaluate pessimistic predictions, considering the potential for innovation and human resilience.
To overcome challenges.
While acknowledging potential risks is important, it's equally crucial to avoid getting swept up in negativity and remain open to the possibility of positive outcomes. But while pessimism can be dangerous, there's another risk we need to be wary of believing appealing fictions.
Oh.
In When You'll Believe Anything,
Okay.
House explores how situations of limited information and high stakes can make us susceptible to believing things that simply aren't true, especially when it comes to our finances. He shares the story of Ali Hajaji, who, desperate to save his sick son, resorted to this dangerous folk remedy. And he explains that when you have no money and your son is sick, you'll believe anything, right? And this story highlights that interplay of desperation and hope when facing difficult circumstances and limited options. We become more vulnerable to believing an easy solution or promises of quick riches, even if those promises lack a solid foundation. And in the financial world, this often manifests as falling for get-rich-quick schemes, trusting gurus with questionable track records, or chasing high-reward, low-probability bets, The allure of easy money can be especially tempting during times of stress or uncertainty. And Housel doesn't just focus on individual biases. He points out how even experts can fall victim to believing appealing fictions. He cites the Federal Reserve's final meeting in 2007, where they failed to accurately predict
the
severity of the impending recession. Even the brightest minds, when faced with limited information and high stakes, can succumb to believing what they want to believe, even if the data suggests otherwise. So it really underscores the importance of cultivating a healthy skepticism, especially when it comes to financial advice that seems too good to be true. Question assumptions, dig deeper into the evidence, and be wary of anyone who promises outsized returns without acknowledging the risks. So while Housel's book explores the many ways our psychology can lead us astray, it also highlights our capacity for resilience and adaptation. Throughout history, humans have consistently overcome challenges.
Adapted to changing circumstances. And found creative solutions to complex problems. Remember the story of the Wright brothers? After their first successful flight, many dismissed it as a mere trick, failing to grasp the significance of their invention. It took years for people to fully accept that human flight was possible.
People couldn't wrap their heads around it.
They couldn't wrap their heads around it. And this tendency to underestimate the power of innovation and cling to familiar narratives even in the face of evidence to the contrary, is a recurring theme throughout history.
People don't want to change their minds.
And Housel emphasizes this importance of long-term thinking in navigating both the opportunities and challenges of our financial lives, while pessimism focuses on
the immediate threats.
Immediate threats and anxieties.
True progress often unfolds slowly, gradually, and often in unexpected ways. So it's about shifting our perspective from the short-term noise to the long-term trends. Recognizing that growth and innovation often require patience, resilience, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected.
And on that note of embracing the unexpected, let's continue our deep dive into the psychology of money. In the final part.
Sounds good.
We'll wrap up with some of the most compelling takeaways and actionable insights.
Looking forward to it.
So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into the psychology of money, I'm curious, what are your biggest takeaways?
Oh, that's a great question.
What really resonated with you from all this?
Well, I think what's most fascinating to me is how Housel blends historical anecdotes, psychological research, and practical advice to illustrate this,
complex relationship we
have with money.
With money.
It's not just about numbers. It's about understanding
our emotions.
Emotions, biases, stories we tell ourselves.
I really like that.
It's fascinating. And I think one of the most crucial messages for me is this importance of acknowledging the role luck and risk play
In our outcomes.
In shaping our outcomes.
Yeah.
It's humbling, but
Yeah.
also kind of liberating. It allows us to let go of that self-blame when things don't go as planned.
Right.
And appreciate the influence of chance.
And success and failure.
And both success and failure.
Okay.
It's a reminder to focus on what we can control.
Right, like our savings rate.
Our savings rate, our investment strategy, our mindset.
Right.
While accepting that
The unexpected happens.
Unforeseen events will inevitably occur.
Yeah.
Remember that analogy of the German tanks being disabled by mice?
During World War II.
During World War II.
Yeah.
It underscores that, like, even the most meticulous plans can be disrupted by the unexpected.
By the unexpected, right?
So building that resilience.
Yeah.
Planning for contingencies, accepting that the unexpected is part of life.
Yeah.
Is essential.
I like that.
And as we embark on this journey, you know, Housel emphasizes the importance of, like, defining
our own version
of success.
With success.
Right. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
Or chasing arbitrary wealth targets. It's about aligning our decisions with our values.
Right. With what's important to us.
With what's important to us, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, what might be considered rational for one person could be completely out of sync with another person's
goals and aspirations.
Right. That story about Harry Markowitz, the Nobel laureate who used a simple 50-50 portfolio.
Yeah, even though he had all this complex research.
Right.
It's like, okay.
It shows that you need to find what works for you.
Yeah.
Even if it deviates from conventional wisdom. And that's where the concept of enough comes in.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, what does that mean?
But what does that mean for you?
For you, yeah.
It's not about settling for less.
Right.
It's about recognizing that, like, contentment and a clear sense of purpose are essential for long-term well-being.
For being happy.
For being happy.
Right.
Both financially and personally.
Yeah.
The goalposts of success are constantly shifting.
Yeah, they're always moving.
Always moving.
Yeah.
And true fulfillment comes from, like, aligning our pursuits with our values and our passions, not from seeking external validation.
Not from trying to impress other people.
Not from trying to impress other people, exactly. And speaking of fulfillment, let's not forget about saving.
Oh, yeah, good old saving.
Good old saving, right?
Yeah.
Housel reminds us that saving is the cornerstone of building wealth.
Of achieving financial freedom.
It's about cultivating that mindset of frugality.
Right.
Managing our desires.
Delaying gratification.
To invest in our future self.
And it's important to remember, like,
yes,
our future selves will probably be different.
Completely different.
Than who we are now.
Yeah, our goals, our priorities, even our personalities are constantly evolving.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like this concept of, like, planning for multiple chapters. In our financial lives.
It's brilliant.
It's like you said, flexibility, adaptation, regularly reassessing.
Yeah, making sure your plan still fits who you are.
Like when you're 5 years old and you think you're going to be a tractor driver.
Right, exactly.
And then you're like 15 and you're like, no, I want to be a rock star.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Our dreams change.
They change.
Yeah.
And our financial plans should reflect that.
Absolutely.
And as we navigate these evolving chapters, we have to remember that every financial decision, every investment,
it comes with a price.
Yeah. Whether it's market volatility, the risk of loss, the opportunity cost.
There's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
I love that Disneyland analogy.
Yeah, me too.
You pay an admission fee to gain access to a desired experience.
And in investing, that price is often
risk, uncertainty.
Yeah, possibility of losing money.
Right. And by viewing those costs as, like, an inherent part of the process, as the price of admission.
Potential growth.
To potential growth and opportunity.
You can be more balanced about it.
We can approach those decisions with a more, like, balanced and informed perspective.
Yeah. And that brings us back to, like,
full circle.
The psychology of money.
It's not just about the numbers.
Right.
It's about the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
The biases that influence our choices.
The emotions.
The emotions that drive our actions.
Yeah. The psychology of money is a great reminder that, like, understanding our own psychology and our unique relationship with money
is essential
for, like, living a richer, more fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
As we conclude this deep dive. Think about a few questions.
Okay.
How has your personal history shaped your view of money?
That's a good one.
What are your goals and values? How can you align your financial decisions with them?
Great questions.
What does enough look like for you?
Yeah.
And how can you find that contentment to get more financial freedom?
I love it.
And what's one small step you can take today to put these insights into action?
Love it.
Whether it's revisiting your budget, setting a new savings goal,
Right.
even just thinking about your financial philosophy.
Yeah.
Anything.
Any small step.
Any small step.
Can move you closer
to those goals.
To those goals, exactly.
If you want to explore these ideas further, check out The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Great book.
It's a really thought-provoking read.
It really is.
And it might change the way you think about your relationship with money.
For sure.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring,
yes,
and keep questioning the world around you.